some of Wagner's men have the insignia of the 30th Infantry Division, with a vehicle and map of his specifying that they are of the 30th Division's 119th Infantry Regiment. The 30th Division did not even participate in the attack on Kyrgyzstan. Captain Wagner sends the tanks with infantry support to rescue one of his platoons who have been trapped in a field for some time. Upon arrival, we see that many of the ambushed soldiers are still alive and just lying in defilade next to their wrecked half-tracks. Realistically, in such a situation, the Germans would have sent out a patrol to mop up these stragglers. As the rescuing forces enter the field, a modern electrical pylon is clearly visible. A couple of the US infantrymen in this scene have German corresponding mag pouches and all. This would be highly unlikely for similar reasons given with Don's STG-44. If anyone would be using captured weapons at this stage, it would be the ill-equipped Germans, yet none of them have any throughout the movie. One of the soldiers is carrying the green 3-cell grenade pouch that you would see late in the Pacific Theater. US troops in Europe did have their own khaki version of grenade pouch, but even this was not all that common. Far too many of the American foot soldiers have number 1021, M1938, M1943 and M1944 goggles plastered on their helmets. Regular infantry would rarely have these. The German trenches are dug in front of the tree line, when it would make sense for them to be behind for more cover and concealment. The Germans also for some reason wait for the tanks to get a lot closer to them than the half-tracks did to begin shooting. And when they do, it comes primarily from an MG42 machine gun and a couple of 7.5cm Pak-40 anti-tank guns that, in true action movie illogicality, open fire only after the previous one gets knocked out. In a real combat situation, all of the guns would open fire at the same time and establish a crossfire, effectively suppressing the ground troop fencing. The German anti-tank guns fail to recoil when firing. Some of these pack guns have boastful kill marks on their barrels, yet all of them completely fail to score a single successful hit on any of the Shermans. We even later see Fury line up directly in front of a 5cm Pak-38 at point blank range, and the German gunners somehow still don't land a direct hit. Yeah, some aces they are. The movie then decides that it wants to be Star Wars, so has horrendously exaggerated CGI red and green tracers emit from the machine guns like laser blasters. These tracers should not be this bright, should not be this prevalent, should not be producing this many sparks, and should not be so strongly keeping their velocity and color when they ricochet. When the American infantry start engaging the Germans, their doctrine and instincts go right out the window. Nearly all of them completely expose themselves by leaving cover standing upright. They then start stupidly shooting from the hip at range, and a few of them even run at the Germans to bayonet or beat them with their rifles. Their training should have instead seen them using any available cover, staying low to the ground and properly firing from the shoulder. Among the German positions are uniform pieces in Leiber Münster camouflage. This was an incredibly rare late war pattern only distributed in Czechoslovakia and possibly saw some use on the Eastern Front in Germany. There is zero evidence that it ever made it to the Western Front.
We've been together since before Africa. There ain't no crew stay together like we have, Norm.
It is odd that a veteran crew that have been serving together for 3 years since North Africa are still quite low ranking at this point in the war. Surely by now Don would be in command of a platoon or even a company. The crew looks up at an Allied bomber fleet getting intercepted by 5 of what could only be German fighters. The Luftwaffe at this stage was in ruin, after losing nearly its entire force during the final Operation Bodenplatte offensive of January 1st, 1945. By April, they just would not have the capability for fighter sorties like this. Our Americans arrive at what is supposed to be Kyrgyzstan, but it does not resemble any part of the real village. This is because Fury was shot in the Oxford and Hertfordshire regions of England, and the village in this scene is just a mock set that was made on the grounds of the Bovington airfield. The US infantry clearing the village continue to act like Egypts, by all walking way too close to each other. One motor hit, machine gun burst or mine explosion would eliminate like a dozen of them. They should be in tactical formation with several yards between each soldier. Don stops to ask an old man where the enemies are located. After pointing them out, a German sniper wastes their element of surprise by shooting the unarmed civilian instead of Staff Sergeant Collier or any other exposed US soldier. Like seriously? This is then followed with an MG42 and pack gun engaging the Americans, but again only after each position before it was destroyed instead of all at once. The young German woman in the apartment Emma wears a dress with a hemline well above the knee. Even with austerity in mind, the typical woman's hemline during wartime would be below the knee by about 2.5 centimeters. Africa and never fought any Germans there. In fact, they landed in Casablanca of Vichy French-controlled Morocco and remained behind for garrison and training duties. We now reach the most infamous scene of Fury, the German Tiger tank ambush. It opens with the M4A4 Sherman in the rear being destroyed. This goes against basic principles of German tank school. Panzer doctrine taught that the lead vehicle in a column gets blasted first, then the last to stall the column, leaving the vehicles in between to be easier pickings in the chaos. German panzers also had a tendency to target the more threatening longer barrel tanks. Fury, being both in the front of the column and the tank with the longest barrel, would have absolutely been targeted first, not the rear shorter barrel tank. Fury director David Ayer acknowledged that the German doctrine was purposefully ignored to keep the protagonist crew alive.
I know that I cheated because if they shoot the first tank, Brad's dead, movie's over, roll credits. And that's not very fun.
Regardless, a simple fix would have been to just not put Fury at the front of the column. Most US tank crews knew about the German ambush tactic by now in 1945, and D'Austin would likely put his tank in the rear. The German tank seen here is a real World War II era Tiger I numbered 131. It was loaned from the Bovington Tank Museum in England like the other tanks seen in the film. It is very unique in the fact that of the just around 1,300 total Tiger Is ever built by Germany, this in particular is the only one left running in the world. The problem is that Tiger 131 is an early Auf-H model that fought exclusively in North Africa, and so has the plain dark yellow and brown desert paint scheme that would be distinctly outdated by the later war camouflages at this stage. The unit numbers of 131 were also removed for the movie, likely to make it look more generic. Brady is ordered to load a smoke round, but he is shown grabbing and loading an M93 hypervelocity armor-piercing tracer solid shot. Despite being an anti-tank round, when fired it still somehow produces smoke. He should have instead loaded the white phosphorus T13E2 smoke round that is shown here. The Shermans decide to charge directly at the Tiger to flank behind it and shoot its thinner armor in the rear.
Alright, all tanks, move forward!
Get him, right flank, right steer.
Left with me, stay abreast!
Let's go right at him, let's go right at him! Gordon, get around him, put us on his backside! We get behind him, we can kill him!
This would be unnecessary, as Fury has the high-velocity 76mm cannon. This gun could penetrate the Tiger's max frontal 120mm of armor at 1,000 yards with standard AP, and at 1,500 yards they could penetrate the 80mm max Tiger side armor. As the American tanks begin their charge, the Tiger I for some reason decides to expose itself by leaving its concealed position and charge right back at the Shermans. Standard practice was to only advance enough to get a clear shot, and stop or back up to stay at a larger distance, where its 8.8cm KWK-36 cannon would be more effective than the enemy's. The Tiger closing the distance to the Shermans here would only be to its own disadvantage. Both the US and German tank crews fire while driving their tanks at full speed. Late war Shermans were equipped with stabilizers on their guns to allow firing on the